Hello, everyone. My name is Dylan Johnson, and for my Anthropology 220 final project, I will be discussing food deserts. What is a food desert and why we should care? In this presentation, I will be discussing what a food desert is, how food deserts are created, what food deserts, why food deserts can be harmful, and ways to combat food deserts. I first learned about what a food desert was in the first ever college course I took, which was a political science class titled Poli Sci 106. In this class, we read an article about food scarcity and food inequality, and they used the term food desert. And that is where I learned what a food desert was. So when this project came up, I realized this was a perfect opportunity for me to learn more about food deserts. So without further ado, let's start. So what exactly is a food desert? The term food desert was first coined by the Scottish Nutrition Task Force in 1995. Today, the term refers to an area or a community that lacks access to grocery stores. Most areas that would be considered quote-unquote food deserts are located in low-income areas that disproportionately affect people of color. These areas lack access to fresh, healthy, organic foods because residents do not live close enough to grocery stores. People who live in food deserts get most of what they eat from fast food chains such as Burger King and McDonald's, or from local convenience stores like 7-Elevens, Circle K's, and the list just goes on. If I may, before we proceed, I would like to provide a real-world example of what a food desert looks like. Although I did give a definition of what a food desert is, there will never be a sign that will point out where a food desert is. You cannot be driving down the street nor walking down the street, and there will never be a clear marcation stating right here is a food desert. I wanted to do a Google Maps, but I recorded a video and the Google Maps did not appear. So instead, I took a screenshot of the intersection I was at, which was right here. And within this intersection, if you were standing here, you can see a Wendy's, a Popeyes, a Chick-fil-A. This is a McDonald's, and this is a Cookout. Over here is a Taco Bell, a Zaxby's, a Burger King, a Dairy Queen, and an IHOP, and way down here is a Krispy Kreme. So, someone living in the Camden Midtown Atlanta apartments has access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fast food chains within walking distance, but not a single grocery store. And this is not uncommon. This is not something that is a phenomenon. This is a very common looking intersection all across America. So, how did this happen? Food deserts primarily exist due to a lack of access to healthy foods. The primary reason as to why food deserts exist is racial and income inequality. The article, How Fast Food Chains Supersized Inequality, which was an optional reading in week 4 of this course, has some very interesting findings and things to say about this issue. In the book, Supersizing Urban America, written by Chin Zhao, and I'm very sorry if I'm mispronouncing their name, the author discusses how fast food franchises, such as McDonald's, were introduced into lower income communities by the federal government. At the time, The Nixon administration believed that black-owned fast food franchises would help usher in a new wave of quote-unquote black capitalism. This idea would help make a small group of black franchisees very wealthy. But overall, this policy that was enacted by Nixon would set in motion what would now be considered food deserts. The Small Business Administration made thousands upon thousands of loans to black entrepreneurs in the early 1970s. In 1969, there were 405 minority franchisees in the United States. In 5 years, that number would balloon to 2,453. That is a 2,000 increase in just 5 years. There is a great quote in this article, and it reads this: Fast food once symbolized middle class status, prized in neighborhoods where many were just scraping by on public assistance and food stamps. Today, it has become much more identified as the food that people who labor in fast food restaurants eat, as the miserable pay leaves them with fewer and fewer options. This is a great quote. Food deserts primarily exist due to two things: corporate greed and government policies, who at the time may have meant well, but left unchecked and unregulated, have turned into a nightmare. Nutritious foods should be a basic human need. Sadly, people living in food deserts do not have as easy of a time accessing basic, nutritious, and healthy foods. This result, the result of primarily consuming heavily processed foods, has increased numerous health issue risks. A study by the American Cancer Society reveals that both income and access to healthy food are associated with a greater life expectancy at birth, by more than 2 years on average for some adults in the United States. Shorter life expectancy was found in low-income areas and food deserts. People who live in food deserts are more likely to have diabetes, obesity, and mental health issues, such as anxiety, feelings of shame, or guilt, along with depression and feelings of isolation. Not only do food deserts impact people's physical health, but they also impact people's mental health. And it is a shame, because people who live in these regions did not choose to live in areas without access to healthy foods. People who live in food deserts do not choose to only rely on fast food chains for their daily caloric intake, but they do. So what is the solution to food deserts? One very exciting and one very straightforward solution to combating food inequality, one that I would never have thought of, is farmers markets. According to Augusta University, farmers markets can help promote food security. They offer a practical approach to improving access to food in food deserts. Farmers markets can also cost less to set up, they are mobile, and they need less space than stores. You could fit around 10 farmers market stands just in a parking lot of a fast food restaurant. And not only are farmers markets mobile, cost-effective, but they also can serve as an incredibly valuable community resource for those living in food deserts and suffering from food inequality. Farmers market workers and local volunteers can offer to help teach people how to not only store, but also prepare fresh foods. Additionally, not only do farmers markets help people who suffer from food inequality, but they also help local farmers. Farmers from underprivileged backgrounds who may come from farms that are not performing as well as they would like can sell their goods directly to consumers at fairer prices, helping them sustain their farms and supporting local communities that suffer from food inequality. Stopping food deserts is an incredibly difficult task. But like most things, there is always a way that you can help. The most important thing to do is to work within your local communities and help those whom you can reach directly, either from helping initiate local farmers markets, from donating just to food drives, to possibly writing or calling your senators for better legislation to help people who are suffering from food inequality. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Once again, my name is Dylan Johnson, and whether or not you're watching this during the day, I hope you have a good day, or at night, I hope you have a great night. This has been an honor to talk about. Here are my references lastly, and have a good rest of your time.